Well, teachers and students were using their day off to make their voices heard, pushing for more gun control. And calls for changes have been heard time and time again, but a former legislator is warning about the consequences of quick policy decisions. And police are on the lookout for a hit-and-run driver. We're going to have the latest details on that search. But first, we're going to take a little live look outside at downtown Denver, glowing beautiful at 6 a.m. on your Saturday morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Manisha here, along with Greg. Woke up to a little snow.
Yeah.
Are we done for the day?
We're most likely going to be done, but there were some fat flakes coming down.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, less than an inch for much of the metro region.
Wasn't a ton.
Nothing crazy. We came in this morning.
The roads
are just fine.
Yeah.
Maybe a few slick spots. Other than that, you're going to be a-okay for this Saturday. Otherwise, though, we're looking at chilly conditions. Highs only in the upper 30s, nearing 40 degrees.
Well,
I know.
Whatever.
Indoors, though. Whatever, Greg. I'm done with you. Yeah, let's get a look at the forecast for us right now, because we are in for a chilly day today, but it's going to feature a little bit of everything. We have a red flag warning for this afternoon and for this evening. Of course, Pueblo's in the mix there, along with Walsenburg, down toward the southeastern plains. Gusts up to 45, even 50 miles per hour possible. And on top of that, we have a winter weather advisory in effect, 2 to 4 inches possible for our friends to the north and east, and gusts up to 50 miles per hour too. There's that system that crossed through the metro region a little bit earlier this morning, I should say, that continues to push out towards the north and east, which is why they're under a winter weather advisory, and of course the metro region is not. Current temperatures in the upper teens and lower 20s. Winter jackets an absolute must for today. Winds not too bad. Look for them to pick up though, especially for the southeastern plains. High temperatures for today in the upper 30s and lower 40s. Breezy and chilly conditions with a chance of snowfall. And of course, for the rest of this weekend, we're expecting those cold conditions to continue, but will slowly moderate by the middle of next week. I'll talk about that coming up.
And for the second day in a row, hundreds of teachers and students and parents were rallying at the state capitol, wanting lawmakers to understand the fear they are living with just going to school every day. East High School and all Denver public schools were quiet on Friday, closed so that everyone could take a mental health day after the shooting at East High that hurt 2 administrators. New signs of support for the East community are popping up around the campus. Gerald Mason was one of the deans shot by a 17-year-old student on Wednesday. He is recovering at home now. Eric Sinclair is still in the hospital in serious condition. DPS is also on spring break next week. East Principal Tarita Walker sent them a message on Instagram saying it's her hope that they can find some joy, take some time to themselves, and relieve some of the pressure they might be feeling, saying ultimately East's strength is in their love for their community. Now, while East High students were at the Capitol to demand safety in their classrooms, Queer Youth Denver joined them to rally for protections for young queer and transgender people in our state. The rally was one of several happening across the country, asking for better protections for the LGBTQ community. They're asking for changes to legislation based on restrictive laws passed in other states. The organizers say that recent anti-LGBT legislation in those states and a rise in hate crimes against queer and trans youth has had a huge impact on kids here. Queer Youth Denver wants to codify Title IX, adding protections based on sexuality, gender identity, and gender expression. They're also asking for an LGBTQ+ legislative group to advise the state House and Senate on legislature that could impact queer and transgender people across the state. Well, there are students and staff who are fearing for their lives in Denver schools. More than 800 students who could be a danger to themselves or others have gone through threat assessments this school year. And in some cases, district leaders put them back into regular classrooms against the advice of police and school administrators. Even in cases of violence clear up to attempted murder charges. Our Chris Vanderveen has this 9 News Originals report.
You're nervous, you're anxious, you just want to see your kids' face.
And our children shouldn't have to go to school and worry about their safety.
I received a text message from my daughter that East was on lockdown.
Not long after the texts.
Supposedly there's shots fired on the first floor.
And not long after the rush.
I went and grabbed Carolyn and I said, we need to go now. Like, this isn't a joke anymore.
Carolyn and Frankenella learned their daughter's high school had a policy.
Is this particular student actually had a safety plan that was in place?
Policy they knew nothing about.
They were to be searched at the beginning of the school day every day.
Parents aren't being notified that kids are being patted down in their schools? Yeah, here's a major problem.
And yet that policy
Are you mad?
Yeah, frustrated.
Is one Kurt Dennis has come to know all too well.
When I heard of what happened at East and I recognized the similarities to the situation that we're working with here at our school, it really hit a nerve.
Why? Because for the last few weeks, the principal at Denver's McAuliffe International School, the city's largest middle school, has helped implement that same pat-down policy for one of its students.
I think it's important that people know, and I think it's important that parents know, and that I think it's important for school leaders to speak out and say this isn't okay and it needs to stop.
Earlier this year, he received notice that prosecutors had charged a student at his school with, among other things, attempted first-degree murder and illegal discharge of a firearm. Denver police told him, in their professional opinion, the student should not return to a traditional setting.
The detective stated very clearly that under no circumstance did she believe that the student should be returning to an in-person learning setting in Denver Public Schools.
And yet?
And yet we were directed to have the student return to school in person.
He did ask for the student to access courses online.
Our request that the student be enrolled in an online school was denied.
Why? Do you know?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
He then asked for an expulsion, to which the district said no.
The school district told you because this attempted murder took place off school grounds, it doesn't impact his life on school grounds.
Correct.
And so for weeks, he and his team have done something he admits they're not trained to do: pat down a student day after day after day, hoping not to find a weapon. In a recording, a district safety administrator told him he's hardly the only one to feel frustrated.
Unfortunately, we have other students charged with attempted murder and that have come back to their school or tried to. Yes, that is a possibility.
I know that this is happening beyond just McAuliffe International School and that it's happening in other schools in Denver.
And so he spoke to us today, putting his professional life at risk.
You're aware of that?
Yeah.
You okay with that?
Yeah, it's important. Yep.
Carolyn and Frank Anello say they support him. Why? Because their other daughter attends McAuliffe, and they're now aware of that school's policy as well.
That's not okay with me.
Yeah,
and I'm sure it's not okay with many other parents as well.
We sent the district several questions, and a district spokesperson said they were unable to answer with the closure due to the shooting at East. 9 News has obtained documents indicating there are similar situations at other schools. We're not reporting on those situations at the moment because of safety and privacy concerns. If you're a part of the DPS community and have information that we should know about, you can email us at next@9news.com, or if you prefer an encrypted channel, you can text us via Signal at 303-871-1841. Well, time and time again, gun violence in schools has led to calls for changes. Terence Carroll has seen this cycle before. He was the first black speaker of the House in Colorado, elected to the legislature shortly after Columbine. He's also a former police officer who says quick policy decisions can have unintended consequences.
But I think lawmakers have to avoid giving our communities a false sense of hope. That somehow that if we do this thing here, in this case, put law enforcement officers, armed law enforcement officers, back in the classroom, back in the school buildings, that automatically it's going to make a school safe. That's not necessarily true. The research that we've seen on this and that 9 News has done in previous stories shows that it's not necessarily true.
Terence talked to 9 News race and culture reporter Angeline McCall. Their full 10-minute conversation is on 9news.com and the Next YouTube page.
And one thing that you need to know about your weather right now especially is that the snow continues to pile up along the northeast plains of Fort Morgan. Let's zoom on in there, getting a strong band, or a heavy band I should say, of some snowfall. Same thing goes for Yuma, and Ray is about to be getting a little bit more snowfall too.
And right now, Denver police still looking for a driver involved in a hit and run that left one person dead. This happened at Federal and 14th Avenue just after 8 last night. Police say they are looking for a white Ford F-150 pickup model year between 2004 and 2008 with no front license plate and possible damage. Also, westbound I-70 at Vail is now back open. That was after being closed for several hours yesterday. Police say a semi-truck was parked on the shoulder, not in the way of traffic, when another semi-truck crushed into it. No hazardous materials were spilled, and the driver of the second semi-truck is now facing a careless driving charge.
I'm Matt Renew at one of the most unique places you'll ever find in Vail, a place where you can grab a bite to eat Or if you want, very literally, go down the rabbit hole and explore 13,000 square feet of space that'll have you eating at different restaurants, playing video games, and doing a whole lot more. We'll be hopping to that story coming up on 9 News.